victory. Have you been able to digest what has occurred in the last 7 days?
Not really. It was a pretty wild period of time. And I really think in 6 months, we've taken the country and turned it around. I was told by the King of Saudi Arabia, by the leader of Qatar and the leader of UAE, when we went over there, we brought back $5.1 trillion investment into the United States. They said, you know, you're presiding now over the hottest country in the world. And a year ago, we thought your country was dead. It could never come back. It was so incompetently run by a very bad president. And I said, you're right, this country is hot. And that was a couple of months ago. You know, now we're talking about what we've done recently. So the country is really going. The numbers are great. I watch you in the mornings, and you're giving those numbers, and they're really good. No inflation. We have a bad Fed chairman, but other than that, we have, you know, great. It doesn't even matter. The numbers are so good, it doesn't matter that he keeps the rates artificially high. But it's been an amazing period of time.
When you went to the Middle East and you strengthened those relationships with all of those countries you just mentioned, did you have an idea that you would have to do something with regard to Iran? Because you teased it a little. You said, look, they've got to come to the table and talk. Something's going to happen.
Well, it was getting a little bit hot, and we knew they had a lot of sites, probably 3 plus the 1. But they had 3 main sites, and we knew they were going to have to either give them up. And I thought we could do it during negotiation, and we just about had it done. And then they said, we want enrichment. Enrichment doesn't mean like air conditioning, and it doesn't mean to jack up your car. Enrichment is a bad word. And they said, you got so much oil, what do you need that for? And they said, well, we need it. And I wouldn't let that happen. I think people wouldn't have understood it if I allowed that to happen. So we had a 60-day talk, and that delayed them a lot. And then we said, let's go at it. And it just worked out. And we wanted to work out also for Iran. They were beaten up, and so was Israel, in all fairness. They were both very tight. We call it the 12-day war. That was an intensive war. But the thing that I wanted to do, and I've said it on your show, if you look back 30 years ago or 25 years, we've been doing your show a long time, and nobody like you. But you look back at the early interviews, I would say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They've wanted this for years, and they were weeks away from getting it. And those pilots went in there with those beautiful planes and the most sophisticated bombs anywhere in the world. Think of it, they can go 30 stories deep into granite. Who would think that's even possible? And they did obliterate it, it turned out. Then we had to suffer the fake news, where the fake news in CNN and the New York Times was saying, well, maybe it wasn't as good as Trump said. Maybe it wasn't totally obliterated, but it was destroyed, but not just horrible. And I could see it happening. And they tried to build that into a story. And then it turned out, no, it was obliterated like nobody's ever seen before. And that meant the end to their nuclear ambitions, at least for a period of time. And, you know, a lot of people have said, well, do you think they're going to start again? I said, the last thing they want to do right now is think about nuclear. They have to put themselves back into condition and shape.
You tweeted, the Democrats leaked intelligence.
They should be prosecuted.
Who specifically? Do we know who did it? Will you be able to find out?
You can find out. If they wanted, they could find out easily. You know, you go up and tell the reporter, national security, who gave it. You have to do that. And I suspect we'll be doing things like that.
Well, those pilots were so courageous, and, you know, you want to honor them. Are you going to do something for them?
Yes, they're going to come to the White House. But what you said is right. These people flew 36 hours in a small space, a big plane, but a small space that was mostly occupied by bombs. And they flew so brilliantly. And they hit a target the size of this circle. A little target, they say, half the size of a refrigerator door, from 50,000 feet up in the air, going at a rapid speed, because they're going very fast when they're over a pretty rough territory. And they hit it every single time. And then they knocked out 2 other sites aside from that.
Do you think that the Iran regime hid some of the enriched uranium before the strikes?
No. You mean, did they take it out of the deep one? No.
Because you were pretty clear you can't have a weapon. You're going to have to come to the talk. Something's going to happen.
I don't think they did. No. I think, first of all, it's very hard to do. It's very dangerous to do. It's very heavy, very, very heavy. It's a very hard thing to do. Plus, we didn't give much notice because they didn't know we were coming until just, then. and nobody thought we'd go after that site because everybody said that site is impenetrable. You can't, you know, you're not going to be able. This way they did. It's at the bottom of a mountain, and it's granite. You know, granite's the hardest stone, and it's granite. So no, they didn't. But I do believe they had people there because you had cars. You know, they were saying cars, and those were masons. Those were people working with concrete. They were trying to seal up the entrance to where the bomb would most likely go in. And they did that. They were working on that, and the bomb went through it like it was butter, like it was absolute butter.
Because I saw reports that there were 400 kilograms, 800 pounds that they moved, but I wonder if it's traceable. I mean, if they were to have moved,
They didn't move anything.
They didn't move anything.
You know what they moved? Themselves. They were all trying to live. They didn't move anything. They didn't think it was going to be actually doable, what we did. And what we did was amazing. And they, you know, we went, there were energy commissions that went there now. No, it's just thousands of tons of rock in that room right now. That room, the whole place was just destroyed. And the other two also. Now, Israel was able to do damage, but we did the final damage. And we have the greatest submarines in the world. We launched 30 rockets from submarines. Every single one of them hit their target.
How will you know if he tries to start things up again? Because Iran just said that they are halting cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog.
The last thing they're going to be doing right now, for a period of time at least, is nuclear. They've had it. They've been trying it for 25 years. The last thing they're going to do is nuclear. We had to hit them, though. They were close to getting a nuclear bomb, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I've heard from people inside Iran that the regime in Iran has executed more Iranian civilians in the past 48 hours than the number of Iranians who died in the 12-day war. So, I mean, you've got a regime that's been building ballistic missiles, building or trying to build a nuclear weapon. Why should we think that they're actually going to give up on this?
Well, they might not give up, but they're going to give up on it while they're exhausted. They are exhausted. They took hits like nobody's ever taken. And frankly, Israel is tied. They wanted to, it was the perfect time. We went in, we destroyed their nuclear capability, and we stopped. It was a beautiful thing. And they couldn't have gone on much further. And Israel was that was a very intense 12 days, very, very intense.
Has any other country suggested to you recently, as a result of this, that they want to join the Abraham Accords?
Yes. So we have some really great countries in there right now, and I think we're going to start loading them up because Iran was the primary problem. I actually thought Iran would. I actually thought we had a period of time where I thought Iran would join the Abraham Accords along with everybody else. And frankly, they would have been better off than where they are right now.
And what about the Abraham Accords? Would Syria enter?
Well, I don't know, but, you know, I did take off the sanctions at the request of some of the other countries in the area that are friends of ours. I took off the sanctions on Syria to give them a chance at, you know, the sanctions are biting. They're very strong. And we have sanctions on Iran, too. And, you know, you take them off when, I sort of gave the expression today, you get more sometimes with honey than you do with vinegar.
But you waived the sanctions on the oil with regard to China. So you're allowing China to still buy the oil from Iran.
No, I didn't say that. We have the sanctions on. And if they do a job and if they can be peaceful and if they can show us they're not going to do any more harm, I would take the sanctions off. And the sanctions would make a big difference, as you know. You know, when I was, we had a great success in the first term. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. By the way, it's going to be absolutely, this is better. This is going to be, I think, even much better. But we had the greatest economy in history. And we use sanctions. You use them very carefully. You know, sanctions cost us a lot of money. It's not just, gee, we're going to put sanctions on. When you do sanctions, it costs a lot of money. But I would, one of the things I was thinking about doing, you start waiving them for countries like, if they behave themselves like Iran, where they can sell oil and they can do the things that you want to be able to do. The sanctions are very powerful, and it makes it difficult. I'm not looking to make it difficult. I want them to have a good life, but they were trying to develop a bomb, and the reason you try and develop a bomb like that is to use it.
But I want to get your take on China, really, because you've announced an agreement with the Chinese Communist Party, where China will export the rare earth minerals.
Yeah.
What does that mean in terms of this upcoming tariff structure? You've got a pause in terms of the more steep tariffs that ends August 12th. Are you going to extend that? Are you going to keep that in place or go back to a higher tariff on China?
China's going to be paying a lot of tariffs, but we have a big deficit. They understand that. I have a great relationship with President Xi. We have to do something about the deficit because we have a big trade deficit with China. Biden let it get up to $1 trillion. Think of it, $1 trillion deficit with one country. He let them just take them over the coals. We're not going to do that. But we're doing a rare earth deal, but we're also doing, remember, we have all of the airplane parts. They can't fly their airplanes without us. So we had, some guards also. But it should have never gotten that way because we should have been doing they call it magnets. It's a rare earth, but they call it magnets, a specific type. And they're making those magnets for us right now, and things are well. And we have a deal with China. It's a good deal, I think, hopefully for everybody. We had a deal with China where it was 145% tariffs, and I will tell you, everything stopped in China. I saw that everything stopped, and we did China a favor. But we're getting along well with China. I think getting along well with China is a very good thing. But they are paying substantial tariffs.
Well, I noticed that because it seems like you go so far with China, but you don't sort of use the leverage that you can use. I mean, look.
If I ever had to use it, I'd use it. But when there's no reason to use it, that's good too.
Well, we did just arrest 3 or 4 Chinese nationals who tried to bring a pathogen into the country that gets people sick and destroys food supply. We've got hacking.
You don't know where that came from, though. I mean, did that come from the country, or is that 3 wackos that happened to carry something? You just don't.
Well, there was one that he signed that he would be, one of them signed a paper saying that he would value Mao Zedong's value system. So there was that. And then they hack into our telecom system. They've been stealing intellectual property. Fentanyl, COVID, I mean, all of this stuff. So how do you negotiate with obviously a bad actor and trust them on economics?
You don't think we do that to them? We do.
So
we do a lot of things.
That's the way the world works?
It's the way the world works. It's a nasty world.
And then you just do a trade deal?
We do. Well, we made a lot of money with this trade deal. I do a trade deal if it works. We made a lot of money with the trade deal.
You think that China is going to stop bullying companies to give them information in terms of in exchange for getting those rare earth minerals now?
The companies shouldn't put themselves in that position. They really shouldn't. Now, I will say this, China right now needs those companies much more than they needed them 2 years ago. 2 years ago, China could do that. Today, they can't because they need those companies. They need Apple. They need all of, Apple's spending $600 billion, $700 billion in the United States building plants. They were never going to do that. Think of it, $700 billion. But a lot of the companies that are in China are now relocating back to the United States. So, yeah, China's going to treat them much better as they need them. They didn't need them under Biden because they were ripping us off left and right. They need them under Trump.
You just had a big success at NATO, getting the members to agree to spend more on defense. Is there anything you can do to get Congress to codify this, to get their governments to codify it?
What you do, the best insurance is if they don't do it, you leave. You don't do business with them anymore. You don't do business. You have to have a certain trust, but you can also say trust but verify. But we're making unbelievable deals.
There is litigation around the legality of those tariffs. Are you going to be able to get more trade deals done before you hear from the International Court of Appeals in August?
Sure, but we won the litigation and we had the delay and we had some radical left judge and then we had it overturned. And we're doing well in all of our litigation. We're doing well on the tariff litigation. Look, if some judge said we can't do tariffs, we would fall prey to the rest of the world who would do tariffs and are doing tariffs on us. If we couldn't fight them back with tariffs, this country would be in terrible shape. We would be like this innocent lamb being led to slaughter. So, no,